Hello and welcome to the very first live episode of the Mac at Mins podcast. I'm your host this evening. I'm Tom Bridge, a partner at Technolutionary LLC in Washington, D.C. I'm joined by Emily Koslik from Retail Me Not. Emily, say hi.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm also joined by Marcus Ransom, freelance Apple Systems Administrator in Melbourne, Australia. Say hi, Marcus.
Hi, everybody.
We're also joined by Charles Edge, who is the Director of Professional Services for Jamf Software.
Hello, everyone.
And last but certainly not least, Pepijn Brienne, who is an R&D engineer at Duo Security. Say hey, Pepijn.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Fantastic. I'm going to throw... I'm also joined this evening by Adam Codiga, who I'm just popping into the broadcast here. I should be turning off his mute button right about now-ish, something like that. Say hey, Adam. Hopefully, this is a new platform for us, so we're getting used to some of the pieces. We'll have Adam introduce himself in just a moment. For those of you watching at home, thanks for coming out and talking about the Apple event. If you have questions for us this evening, we're going to be watching the Slack, which is the Mac ADM podcast channel on the Mac Admin Slack. You can also tweet at us at Mac ADM Podcast, as well or as our individual Twitter handles, and we'll do our best to cover all of that. So while I've been stalling here, Adam, do you want to say hello?
Hi. That was not as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. I thought I clicked the little mute camera button, but I didn't.
Oh, sorry about that. So everybody, welcome Adam Codiga from Upserve, and we're very glad that he can join us this evening. So I was going to say, again, join us at Mac ADM Podcast, and we'll have questions as we go through. First, we wanted to talk a little bit through some of the announcements, kind of give us the nutshell of what happened. Obviously, today at the Bill Graham Auditorium in San Francisco, Apple released their latest major event and released new hardware to go along with that. And so one of the big parts of the Apple ecosystems are these keynote events where we get to kind of peek behind the curtain and see what's up next. And today's event started, of course, with Carpool Karaoke with James Corden, and which is something that I personally enjoy and I know isn't everybody's cup of tea. But does anybody have opinion about Tim Cook's singing voice?
You had me at Sweet Home Alabama.
Fantastic.
I was disappointed at the lack of use of Pharrell. Like, they could have... Also, he was not wearing a great hat. He could have wore a better hat.
I think that's a very expensive cameo when you have someone appear and not do anything. Apple showed they got money to burn. Take that, Ireland.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I do think it was interesting that that I heard during the keynote a few months ago, and I definitely thought of it today as well, when one of the Apple music engineers was going over their product, and somebody said the speaker's in the wrong crowd. And you have to remember that our crowd isn't just us techie IT people. Our crowd is like everybody that owns an iPhone, which is our parents, our friends and family, and people from all different walks of life and cultures. And we can't just say that the keynotes are a techie crowd anymore. So I think that the car karaoke was a little weird. And I do know quite a few people who were confused by it, but it's a pop culture thing. So I thought it was interesting. I'll put it that way.
I think especially for the phone launch, that's something that's very much not a techie crowd. So I think it was probably a lot more appropriate to this one than the WWDC.
Yeah.
They've done other big like openers, right? Like, what was the other one? Who was on it? Was it Andy Samberg who did like a whole recorded thing? What was it? They had another, A-lister do like an intro for the whole music thing.
Will Forte, I'm pretty sure Will Forte did.
Oh,
Didn't he do a bit? Yeah, right. Last year.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
Bill Hader, wasn't it?
Bill Hader. That's
Bill Hader.
Oh, Bill Hader.
One of the SNL people will get there eventually. Yeah. So I mean, it seems to be like a theme now. I guess they like to get some entertainment going at the start of it.
So yeah, so once we got through the opener, we had our first big surprise of the day, which was Miyamoto coming to the stage. And, Shigeru Miyamoto from Nintendo, obviously famous for creating Mario, was the kind of showstopper, at least early on. And it was fascinating to see him, kind of engage and talk with the platform. And they are bringing Nintendo games and Nintendo intellectual property to the iPhone, starting with Super Mario Run, which is going to be the first of the products to kind of make that leap. And
exactly. It's interesting. I'm almost spotting a theme now. There was a bunch of things going on in the keynote that are important to people who are fans of Apple and fans of their devices that didn't make sense to regular techie people like us, right? So I thought it was really, really funny and really different to see the head of Nintendo on stage demoing the Mario Run app as silly and one-dimensional as it might have appeared. I don't feel like it is, but I think that some people might have felt like it was just a one-dimensional speedrun game. And it was so funny to see them do such a demo and such silliness to it. The onstage game person challenged Phil to like a high score, and it was like silly, but like that's Apple now, and that's what we kind of have to get used to, is that's what they're building.
I kind of felt like that was signifying the end of what seemed like a little bit of a Cold War for a little while between console and game makers, where at this point with Mitomo, with Pokemon Go, and now with Mario on the way to the platform, that there is a wall that's been dropped, and maybe they're still fighting a multi-front war, and it's going to still be about consoles at some point, but different groups have different objectives, and one of the objectives is to sell lots of apps. My favorite quote of his of the day was definitely when he kind of took a stab at all the in-app purchase games, and he was he was awesome, like, well, it's one price. Like, that's it. We're not gonna keep bugging you for extra money, and your kid's not gonna accidentally rack up a $2,000 bill. Not that happened to me, but it totally did. So I thought that was kind of, to me, like a very interesting observation.
Didn't you write an article about that recently? Like, monetizing apps?
Yeah, I wrote it from the perspective of looking at it as a business thing, but really it was just me trying to reconcile the fact that I had spent all this money.
Well, on that note, I mean, in-app purchases are kind of in-app purchases have become a thing because of the market. See, it's a live show, so you have to deal with us rambling as we find our thoughts. In-app purchases are this thing that the App Store kind of inadvertently created because there wasn't a way for developers to monetize their apps beyond the original $1 or $2 purchase. And now the App Store is starting to change, and we're going to see monthly purchases and things like that. But I do find it refreshing for Nintendo to come out and say, hey, and again, this isn't their official price, but just picture it this way, they're going to come out and say, hey, our app is $5, and I'd pay that. And I thought that Mario is so endearing and loved and fun, and everybody gets it, that we don't that like I would totally pay that. And I think that on Nintendo, especially because their character design is so strong, I wish they were on mobile a long time ago, and I think it's a great move for them now to do it. And sure, all they did was regenerate a character from 30 years ago, but it's a really good start, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see that over time. And I think that them, of all people, should be on mobile because their character design and everything is already there. I'm not sure if we need more Resident Evil shooter games on iOS, but there is so much to do, and once that Mario Kart is on iPad, it's game's over.
Yeah, seriously, that'll be a huge thing, and I suspect that will be the next property that kind of makes its way toward the iOS platform.
Zelda. Sorry.
Well, you have to give props to Square Enix also, because they ported a bunch of the Final Fantasy games over, and that was like the first time that I like Final Fantasy IX. I was like, yeah, I'm spending $20 on this. I don't care because I want to play it on my iPad. Like, come on now. So it's cool that Nintendo, I think Pokemon Go helped prove that a property will win over regardless of what devices it's on. Because, for so long, Nintendo was, it's a part of our console, it's a part of our identity. But now they know, like, we've got these iconic characters. No matter what platform they're going to be on, they're going to appeal to people. Like, we've built that kind of brand.
Pokemon Go on the watch.
Well, right. So that's obviously the next step to take. And my original thought when the Mario came out, and as well as some of my coworkers said the same thing, like, Nintendo is finally on iOS, and somebody else said, what about Pokemon Go? And my response was, what about it? A company besides Nintendo did whatever they needed to do with Nintendo to sign off on these rights so that they could design a Pokemon Go app, but it wasn't like a video game that Nintendo developed. It was really just borrowing these characters, merging it with the Ingress game that already existed. So it wasn't the same as Nintendo releasing a Mario app.
Well, yeah, and from my perspective, I thought it was fascinating. They released a piece of information in the keynote that basically said someplace around, 5 billion? No, it was a lot of walking.
4.6 billion kilometers.
4.6 billion kilometers,
which is like 5 miles, I think.
Yeah.
That's
Marcus, you know how to do this math, right?
Well,
let me Google that for you.
Yeah.
I just tried and it's not converting it.
It's too big.
It's 2.85 billion miles. So, that's a lot of miles of walking. And I'll say I've walked several extra miles, at least in the last couple of weeks. Just picking up, trying to get those damn eggs hatched. It's dumb, but I'm also in the process of like revamping my fitness stuff, and the fact that I would be able to do the stuff, to do a workout in Pokemon Go and have it apply to my calorie counts and everything as we get into WatchOS 3 is actually kind of fascinating to me and something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
And, plus, you need to walk to get that Stardust, man. I mean, that's the best way to rack up on Stardust is hatch some eggs. Anyway.
That's right. Yeah. And because that's the other thing though, is that there are a couple of gyms in my neighborhood, and man, you take over those gyms, you get people in. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that right there. We don't need to rehash all of our previous conversations about Pokemon Go, which have been numerous, I might add.
Yeah, listen to our past podcast episodes to hear all about our Pokemon Go endeavors.
Yeah,
by the way, I had 142 in my Pokédex today.
Oh my god.
I just thought it was interesting that all of the features of the Apple Watch trying to get new market share just got completely blown out of the water by now we've ported Pokemon Go to it. And
in my
office,
it was like there were these like head nodding responses to everything else, and then they said Pokemon Go coming to the Apple Watch, and it was just like the wave. And I looked around, I was like, I didn't even realize half these people played, but cool.
It's
I think
amazing.
it's a good safety feature. I guess they announced that you can play it with more heads-up time. I think that was kind of like a hint to like maybe pay attention and not step in front of a bus while you're harvesting eggs. So that's good. I like that.
That only happened once, and the bus stopped.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
So that takes us to the Apple Watch, and so just to kind of go over things, there's now Apple Watch Series 2 to go with the original Apple Watch, which is now Apple Watch Series 1. There's a new system on a chip, or I think they call it system in a package. Is that what I?
More SIP,
system in a package.
More SIP confusion, basically.
Yeah, more SIP confusion. That's right. Sorry, Rich. But there's now a new version of that chip that has dual core processors. It's supposed to be twice as fast, and it's much better GPU. The screen is substantially brighter. It's 1,000 nit screen.
How many nits? How many nits?
It's 1,000 nits.
1,000 nits.
All the nits.
Give me those nits.
Honest question.
Do you need a special comb for those?
Yeah. How many of you actually had heard of the knit unit before, like this podcast, or before the keynote?
No.
There are a couple people. We've done some research on outdoor signage. And,
heard of it, but
yeah.
One dude at work was like, "Whoa, they know what they're talking about," and we're all like, "What?" Okay.
But so we get the watch out of the whole experience. It is now waterproof to 50 meters for the Series 2, and they've done a bunch of really interesting things. I think they missed a huge opportunity in not having Katie Ledecky out there to introduce the swimming workouts, because that would have been awesome. She probably would have been the gold standard for that particular athletic model for that. But let's see, they're also going to update the Series 1 and keep it on the marketplace. So you'll be able to buy a Series 1 watch, but they'll have the S2 system in a package. And
so it'll have the new chips, but
Yes.
it'll be
It won't
Yes.
be waterproof. It'll just be water resistant.
Correct.
Important.
And those are going to start at $269, I think, is what they said. $369 for the one with the GPS. And there were some. The edition model is no longer gold; it's now ceramic, and starts
That's
way
the
cheaper.
CEO model. That's what we
Yes.
started calling it. It's the CEO model.
So, did anybody think that a ceramic was the band that they were about to announce?
I
Not
did
the
not.
actual.
I'm sorry.
Nobody thought
I
that.
think you're the only one.
Nobody, not me. I
Yeah.
didn't think that
Well,
a
you
ceramic
said it.
meant the band.
No, really, it's the headphones that are ceramic.
Yeah, we'll get to
Comfortable.
those in a minute.
We're gonna get into that later.
Nice
So, yeah,
resonance, at least.
Yeah, and then we also get the new version of the Apple Watch that's going to be Nike Plus enabled. That's going to be special just to their environment. You get a different wristband. You get I guess a different face. So it'll be kind of like their Hermes line, where you get a different face with a special font that is the Nike Future Bold Italic.
I wonder how much it cost Nike to make Johnny Ive close his eyes while they ran that design through. Because I can see various points where Johnny Ive would have just left the room.
Yeah,
Like, just do it.
But
I don't
at the
want to
same
know.
time, I can see Apple being willing to say that these brands are going to come out and do their thing.
Oh, sure.
These brands need to represent themselves. I think that definitely applies with the Nike version. I
There was no.
think the people that want to wear the Nike version are those that want the green and black and screaming colors and the fonts like crazy.
There was no
I
red
was
and
in-
black Apple Watch. I want to point out.
there was
the
a
U2
there was
edition.
not.
of
Oh, that's
the-
right. That's
yeah.
right.
I'm interested as to why we haven't heard anything more about Mark Newson, the Australian industrial designer that was supposed to be doing a lot of work with the watches. The Nike watch kind of looked like a bad attempt at some things he did about 20 years ago. So
They probably
Yeah,
tried to
whether-
coordinate with him, but they couldn't figure out the time zone difference.
Or the bandwidth was just so bad.
The bandwidth is just terrible.
This is a running gag for those of you just tuning in.
They were going to bring him in on a camera, but it was upside down. They couldn't figure it out.
Flushing the toilet and it's spinning backwards just blew their minds.
Yeah.
He's still back in the hotel staring at the toilet.
So I mean, we got a new material out of all of this as well. Some extra pieces that are going to come out. The watch, I believe, will be out. You can order them Friday. They'll be out the week following. Is that right? They'll be out on the 15th.
Yep.
And so that's what's coming on the watch. We segued from the watch. Oh, go ahead. Anything last thoughts?
Yeah.
On
So thought on the watch, which I guess we all survived, and it didn't cause the watch to be an absolute failure. But when they originally announced the watch, they talked and they talked and they talked for like hours about every single little thing, and it seemed like there was like 5 different faces and all these bands. And could I get the sport features if I ordered this particular face that wasn't sport? And I kind of had that same feeling with the Nike version that came out. I think I heard a couple people say like, are all these features only available if I buy the Nike version? So it was just a thought that I had that they're releasing a lot of stuff from
Sure.
faces and bands and editions and things like that, and can make it a bit confusing.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of SKUs associated with the watch and its various accessories. I'm counting right now on their website. I think that I'm counting, let's see, it looks like 15 different sport band colors on top of, let's see, another 12 nylon colors. The classic buckle band has 7. The modern buckle has 4. The loop has 2. You've got 2 different colors of the Milanese and the link bracelet. The Hermes bands come in multiple colors. So it's going to be, there are a huge amount of SKUs, but Apple's a pretty robust retail operation now that can handle those kinds of inventory management.
Yeah.
And
It makes a lot
Also-
more sense when you're in the store and you're looking at the
Yeah.
watch faces that are available, and you look at the bands available, and you have an Apple Store person with you. But yeah, it just makes it feel a little funny. Not saying, well, back in my day, but there was always very enjoyable simplicity to a lot of Apple's choices when it came to a device choice and making it so that the customer didn't leave because they couldn't figure out what they wanted to buy.
I think with the exception of fashion accessories, they still have that kind of good, better, best mentality. It's not like you're saying, oh, I'll take this processor and I'll take this stick of RAM versus that stick of RAM. And why don't we put a heatsink on that? Like it's still like for the hardware, it's still pretty much good, better, best.
It's more of a swatch model, right? Like they're going sort of after that, pick
Yeah.
any band, and just,
Right.
combine it and make it yours, which makes sense. It's a different market, I think.
And as a Mac admin, we're not likely to deploy them at an enterprise level, so we don't really have to worry about
So,
it. It's more like
who
we just
cares?
want to buy it for ourselves, right? That's the fun part.
Yep.
It's
See,
funny. You just said as a Mac admin. So
I didn't say Apple admin. I said Mac admin.
So there was something just glaringly missing from this entire event, right?
There was one mention of the Mac today.
And that was
it
something that they were
There was? I didn't
taking
even hear
away. I'm not taking away, but putting on iOS that was on OS, Apple
Mac OS
laptop
10
hardware.
X,
They
whatever,
did,
right?
but they didn't even mention the OS 10 release date. I had to find that on Rich Trouton's Twitter feed.
I only heard about it in like the Jamf Nation channel on the Slack team. Like I had no
Yeah.
idea. It was
But
just
they
on
did-
their website.
they
like,
did
You
this-
haven't heard.
But
Yeah.
they did this with El
Releasing- Oh, go ahead. Bye-bye.
So I was saying they did the same thing with El Capitan, though. Like they didn't give a date, and then it sort of like snuck into like promotional material. So this seems to be their sort of go-to now of like it'll just be on a banner, and we'll all find out that way.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I mean, they had a lot to talk about, which is actually a thought that I want to talk about later on. But they had so much to talk about that. But still, I was surprised that they didn't go over the specific release dates that they set on the operating systems, even if it was something, even if it was something.
slide at the end of a presentation that's like, if you want to get in touch with me, also Sierra is coming out on September 20th, FYI, right? Like it just wasn't there.
By the way, are we publishing video or just audio here?
I think we're publishing video.
So everyone just saw the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the first cat appearance. I'm expecting at
No,
least 2 or
there's
3
been
more.
cats in the background for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, okay.
I've got one trying to
And
get in
that
my
cat
lap
also
right
has
now.
an emoji. So this is Ash's on my right. She actually already has an emoji on our Slack, which is Ash's knows it. So if you're gonna say, Mac OS Sierra is coming out on the 20th, and Ash's knows it, way ahead of you. I was saying something about, because they just have so much to fit into their event. But I was still very surprised because we saw a ton of releases. There was tons of apps on iOS that were updated overnight. We had the Castle Suite released, a Sierra and iOS 10 support today. So that dropped out of nowhere this morning. We didn't even have a beta. So all of a sudden it was released and I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna
I
There
know
was a
about it.
beta. The beta was for like a week.
Just throwing this out there. I knew about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't invited, which means if I'm not invited, it doesn't happen. But
We'll fix that.
I think
I
there's
was
a middle
surprised
finger
that they
emoji
didn't,
for that.
squeeze in those release dates, even if it was just, they didn't talk about iOS or Mac, so I'm not sure whether they would.
talk briefly.
Well, no, they
about
talked
the
about iOS, so
yeah,
they
the
could have.
iOS release date got shunted in with the iPhone 7 announcements. And so-
Was it physically announced during the keynote?
Yep.
Okay.
But
But
not
the
iOS 10.
the iOS section was very brief. They really just sort of went over a couple of the features and then moved straight onto the phone. It's sort of not like they felt that there was anything new to talk about there. So
I fully expected the iOS portion to include all of the new MDM features, including the exact defaults domains keys that you were actually augmenting when you ran. I was thoroughly disappointed that it did not.
But but set the music to keep it interesting for the.
Yeah.
Set to Pharrell. See, that's
Yeah.
again, they just
There you
lost their opportunity with the Pharrell there.
Yeah, and see, they had him, and they just didn't use him for that. Maybe his segment got cut at the last minute because he was having trouble rhyming the keys. I mean, AD domain and cert URLs just don't rhyme the way that we'd like them to.
He refused to wear those rip-off Kanye sunglasses, so he was like, I'm not going to be here as long,
He was upset because his phone got touch disease.
And the car wasn't big enough for him to wear one of his big, like, mounty hats. So he just wasn't feeling it, so it was short.
Sorry, Charles. We'll get that into the next version.
All right.
So that takes us to the iPhone 7. We've got brand new phones here with both. We keep the gold and rose gold and the silver models that we all know and love. And
I'm going to protest
we'll get
by
there.
showing my.
Am I the only person that doesn't care about that? Like,
You're
the
not.
iPhone
I
thing?
could care less either.
Okay. Just want to make sure at least I'm not alone on that.
It's
I-
We
just
also
the people
get-
who complain about everything, like Adam. I mean, he's here today. Never mind.
Oh no!
They're including an
not only
adapter
could I
in the
care
box.
less, I love the AirPods because the AirPods are the only thing that's compatible with me. So I think the AirPods are amazing. I can't wait to.
You think they're
Spend all my
amazing
money.
because you've used them?
No, I think
No,
they're
the
magical.
AirPods
I think
are
they're
the ones that
magical
like
because
stay,
I watched
right?
the keynote.
Oh,
I think they're magical because I watched the keynote. We have to get the buzzwords right.
got it.
So
I think they're exciting to think about buying.
For $160, hard pass. There's no way they sound good enough to spend that much money on them.
I just want to bring up
Oh,
that
what if they were $10 a month for 2 years?
Yeah, I would be more interested in that. That's like
just
a
wanna-
reference to a private channel. No one's going to know what we're talking about.
I just want to note that there was a lot of technical details given about all the accelerometers and everything else, but 0 words about the actual sound quality drivers used or anything like that. So I think we kind of know where what the focus on this is to make very
I'm going to
nice.
bet $20 on magical audio quality.
Oh, there you go. I didn't look at the full tech specs yet, but I'm sure they'll be fine for $160.
$160 US. They're
Yeah.
significantly more than that here in Australia.
That's like
bet.
8 million Australian, isn't it?
That was the exchange rate last year. It's gone up since then.
Oh, Brexit, right. Sorry. Oh, wait, that wasn't you.
Not anymore, at any rate. It's been a while, right? Australia's their own thing now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For a couple decades
Yeah.
at least.
So, so did anybody find it curious that Apple got rid of the port? Did they find it
Offensive looking.
Let me shrug emoji for you right now. That's how I feel
did you
about
find
it.
it
Emoji.
maybe it was confidence on their part? Some people may even say courageous for them to get rid of a
They could have picked a
3.5
better word.
millimeter port. I completely agree with what they were saying, but nobody was in the mood to hear that
and
because I love to. I've said it a million times. It's just become a cliche. I love to make my little joke about the VGA port, but I think Apple has. Hey, here's the C word again. They have the cred to do that. They have the power to say, we're just going to get rid of this thing that isn't really important anymore because you know what? We need to get rid of it to move on.
They
I
should have
really-
showed the adapter and then those deal with it sunglasses come down. They're like, here's why we did it. Sunglasses. And then everybody's like, oh, because they don't care because they're Apple.
And one of the things that I was thinking about all of this was that the line that Phil used was courage. And, I think about Cortez scuttling his fleet as you arrive in the new world. And I think that's very similar to the situation that we're in, in terms of Apple just saying, fine, this is how it is. Welcome to the new world. We're burning our ships. We're not going back. But then, by the same token, they also include the adapter in the box. They also made the adapter for sale for $9. So
right,
this
because
tells me that
if
Apple's
they didn't
kind of
include
afraid
these
about it.
adapters, people would be filling out 10 times as much. So It's like they don't include the adapters and they move us forward by getting rid of the support. And people say it's ridiculous that they're charging me $29 for a network adapter. And then they include the adapter and people are like, that just means it's a stupid idea for them to get rid of the port. And it's like,
maybe they saw us joking around about the price structure on Twitter the other day. We're like, okay, so if it's $10, they're like, yeah, we're sorry for the inconvenience. If it's $40, it's like, well, we owe Ireland some back taxes and we need to make a little more money.
Yeah.
If Emily says that we should do it, then we should do it. That's exactly what
That's right. I should pull that much weight in the world, clearly.
I'm just going to look at my crystal ball right now, and I'm going to say the next model will not have an adapter in the box. It's a really risky assumption to make, but that's obviously what it's
I could totally
next.
see that happening. Yeah, absolutely. I could totally see that happening. I think
7S, no more adapter.
So
exactly. I mean,
I think
Apple's still charging us $29 for a USB network adapter, which doesn't do gigabit.
yeah.
So maybe all the money from those adapters for people who are trying to net boot their 12-inch MacBooks is subsidizing them, including the adapters with the iPhone.
Maybe we should stop binding Macs to Active Directory and use like Nomad and just realize that we have a mobile workforce and just like roll with it. Like, just saying.
Definitely.
Spend all of our money on putting better Wi-Fi in than buying adapters.
Exactly.
I think the reality is we're going to see more people moving towards wireless or Bluetooth headphones and earphones rather than using Lightning. I think, because that's going to be supported on devices other than the iPhone, it's going to be a lot easier for manufacturers, third-party manufacturers. It's also going to be interesting to see the W1 chip that's used in the AirPods and in the new Beats headphones. Are they going to make that available to people outside of Apple? Is that going to be something that they'll let third-party manufacturers use to start increasing the number of supported or better supported wireless headphones? Is that going to start appearing in CarPlay or sort of car kits, that kind of stuff?
Well, so here's the question, right? Like with this, to take a technical stab at this, the adapters that they're giving you, like, have some kind of like digital audio converter in it or not. Like the plug you get obviously is just analog. It's just pinouts or just hooked to the analog audio. But are there going to be more higher fidelity, whatever you want, headsets that first of all draw more power and do some additional like digital to digital to analog conversion in the unit itself. Like it opens some new avenues for for those people who like their headphones fancy and sounding very very good. They have some actual some additional inroads there now.
So putting aside that show of hands, or not show of hands, because I guess if you're listening you can't see that, but who else?
Plus one in the Slack channel.
Who's buying a new 7? Who else upgrading?
I will upgrade.
Yep.
I'm probably going to upgrade
I'll be
to 7
buying.
Plus. Probably.
Yeah, me too.
End of October.
So they'll hit $1.5 billion.
I'll be out of contract in like a few days. So yeah, two
Awesome.
years are up.
And who else? Yeah, who all already own? Does anyone not own an Apple Watch?
I don't.
This one is a week and a half old, and I'm a little upset.
Are you gonna? You didn't
must
see the
have
writing on the
known.
wall. Come on.
I feel
It was
bad
a
when
gift.
I feel bad when
I didn't have much
the
to say
interns
about it.
at work have an Apple Watch and I don't, and my phone buzzes in my pocket and I'm too lazy to take it out of my pocket to read what the notification is.
Oh, that's why you never get back to me.
If it's one vibrate, it's an email. So I go and I stare at my mail client and wait
over
for
and
the
over
new.
again that I was waiting for the new watch, and now that there is one, I feel like I have to own up to that. But they're a lot of money, and I pay student loans, so we'll see what happens.
So just for the sake of conversation, what we're talking about with the Apple Watch is waterproofing, better hardware performance, and better OS design. Those are the three main points that we're talking about here.
GPS. Did you say GPS? I'm only half paying
GPS
attention.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in it for the GPS. I want to be able to go for runs and have the Nike Plus run thing on my watch and not have to like carry my phone with me. Like that seems very appealing.
I found that really challenging because I want to have the phone with me for safety anyway. But it does make it easier. Well, I guess either watch made it so I could glance at the watch to see things instead of taking the watch out of my pocket. But,
I run on a treadmill, so I guess safety is still a concern, like if I fall or something.
And your AirPods fall out and you step on them, which means the AirPod is a horrible failure of design.
I don't think the
I've
AirPod
just
was
been
designed
reading-
for active people. Just saying,
I've just been
like-
reading way too much Twitter today, so I apologize.
One of the favorite things that I read on Twitter was from my friend Clinton Yates, who's like, I was not aware that I should live in a world where AirPods croakies are a thing. And for those of you people,
It's okay though, because all the kids that might die from swallowing earpods have already swallowed Tide Pods. Sorry, yeah, we're getting a little dark here, folks.
That's a little
This is the
dark.
live edition. Nobody can edit me out. Somebody brings up some interesting points, and I should just say their name. Carl brings up some interesting points in Slack. We've forgotten about the new features in iOS 10 and Sierra. We're going to be able to unlock our computer with our watch.
Yes.
So we're going to have more features in the watch to help us interact with our computer. And again, just a quick, the amount of times in the last month that I've been not wanted to take my phone out of my pocket to read something, but and then I click in all my browser tabs to see if I can figure out what the notifications related to.
My favorite thing about my Apple Watch, period, is the fact that when I'm ending a meeting, I can just flick my wrist and see the location for my next meeting when I have back-to-back meetings. I mean, in an office, you're like, oh, I need to go to the next room over, or you don't have to get your phone out of your pocket. And God, those 8
That is
calories.
a real like director of professional services like concern. Where's my next meeting? I can't bother with my computer. I'm gonna look at
But
my
the
watch.
the most important part of that feature is that means that the watch is entirely tax deductible. So it's a
Charles,
business expense.
I think I have you beat on the meeting speak. All you do is you show up 5 minutes late and say sorry.
But yeah, so we've got a lot of good, interesting things here. We haven't talked about Jet Black yet, which is the new finish for the phone.
Is that like the matte one or
No,
the shiny one?
That's the shiny.
That's the
one.
shiny
That's
one.
the one that scratches easily, according to the
Yeah,
specs.
except
No, but
That's-
it's all crazy magnetic anodized. The magnets and the silver come together and form.
Did anyone else
Baby
cry during
and-
that video?
I understood that they dip it in flour and then in egg and then in batter. I
And the
spaced
blood
out
of small
somewhere.
children.
That's right.
It's deep fried. They appeared to
So-
invent some manufacturing terms during that video.
think they were
Software
making
is
it
so
up.
crazy nowadays, but I still love the hardware videos when it comes to Apple.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm a
still trying to
sucker
figure
for
out how to buy one of those bots that takes the iPhone apart. But just it's very much enjoyable, and as much as Tim is doing an amazing job at incorporating the entire Apple team, because there's hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people that work at Apple that deserve credit. As much as he's incorporating them into the show, it's so funny that Johnny Ive isn't even a guy in a white cube anymore. He's just a voiceover.
Yeah.
Like something's going on. I'm going to start the conspiracy theory. I've seen some amazing things with video holograms.
Is
I
he
think
the
they're just
Demigorgon?
I think they're digitally creating his voice now, and he doesn't.
Is
exist
Johnny Ive the walrus? Like, is that where we're going with this? Okay, how many people got that reference?
We're gonna
Moms?
we're gonna have
Sure.
the hands above him in all of the corporate videos.
I like Charles's theory that he is the.
Demigorgon. Yeah. I'm telling you. That's it.
The jet
He's-
black iPhone is from the what's it
Alternate
called?
universe.
No, from the under.
The
Wait,
under.
Yes.
Yeah, from the upside down.
upside down.
Right.
The upside
They
down.
filmed
There we
the
go.
upside down was just filmed on a giant iPhone.
That was the iPhone manufacturing plant. That was all dark.
I think it'd be really interesting to see that in person. It's just gonna be really interesting manufacturing.
I keep
No, it's-
telling myself that the
isn't it
finish
always
is
the
like
little-
cool, but like when am I gonna put my kitty ear thing on if I want like jet black? Like I'm whatever. I'm just gonna get the white one like I always do.
Oh yeah, it's such Twitter snark. It's like, what are you gonna put? Not you specifically, but I mean, everyone's like, you're gonna put it into a case anyway. Like, who cares about the fish? But no, I think the 6S became a lot more easier to handhold. I used it for a few weeks without a case, and I think we're going to see that even more so with the 7.
I just want to point out that while the rest of us were speaking, Emily slyly put sunglasses on Tim Cook and threw it on Twitter.
No,
Adam
no,
did, and then I posted.
I did
it on
that in the
Twitter.
Slack channel,
Oh, I gotcha.
and then she put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
So in Slack, if you do /Giphy, hashtag deal with it, and then you paste the URL to an image, it will do the deal with it automatically.
But like
So-
that one, the glasses stopped perfectly on his eyes. Like nailed it 100%. Just
Yes.
if you don't know what we're talking about, check Twitter or the Mac Admin Podcast channel on Slack and
Yes.
see the wonder.
So doesn't Apple find ways to become indispensable? I remember back in my retail days, something that I always told people was I kind of found it like really, really creative that, as stupid as it sounds, when your headphones were ever unplugged from your iPod, the iPod automatically paused itself. And I almost find it's those tiny little things that you end up deciding you can't live without. And it's the same thing with the way Charles was saying about, flicking the Apple Watch and stuff like that, and not having to fuss so much with your phone.
Hey, I have another question. Now that they have these adapters, do you, on all their devices, do you for free get an extra audio output? How does that work? Curious about that. It's popped up in my head. Like, does it treat it as a second output, or how does that work? Anyway, sorry. Random thoughts I have.
One of the interesting things that's about the AirPods, I think, that we haven't talked about yet, is that the pairing process, when you pair it with a single iOS device, it is now automatically an audio source available to your iPads, your Apple Watch, to your Mac. And so I was kind of thinking, I was like, if I was doing that engineering-wise, how would I do that? And the more I thought about it, the more it sounded like an iCloud keychain kind of task, where it was passing around the pairing environment.
What could possibly go
it would
wrong
be-
there?
It would be a feature that I don't use with a lot of iCloud, but it would be so cool if they did that.
I keep getting a local items prompt, and now my headphones won't pair because you wiped out my keychain to get the prompt to go away. Oh, sorry.
Then,
Oh, you got a new phone
Tom's
number?
feature request, don't
Yeah.
delete that headphone pairing.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
yeah,
it'll have its own
that's gonna be
keychain. Who
interesting.
knows?
So if you get a new phone number, then you can't reset your iCloud keychain. So then you can't use your headphones anymore?
Yes.
Got it.
Nailed
There's going to
it.
be a reset on those.
Exactly.
The chain of trust is frighteningly thin.
They'll make it as easy to find as repairing a mouse, which I don't know how I found out how to repair a Magic Mouse, but I can't find documentation on it anywhere. Like,
Not
You buy
only
a-
do you turn it off and
You buy a
on,
new
which
one.
Yeah.
you turn it
buy a
off
new
and on quickly, and then you're able to repair it.
So
That's
And then what happens if you've got two pairs of earpods in the house and they get mixed
People
up?
can't even oh, well, actually, that brings up a fun point, is that everything is one-to-one with Apple. Everything's very personal. And it's the same thing with iPad. You want to be, we were talking about this earlier this week on Slack, where it's like, no, I want to share my iPad with my family because we're not going to buy 5 iPads. But all of a sudden, I signed into my iPad and all my photos and text messages are just coming up on my iPad. How do I stop that? So it'd be interesting to see if we start to have those same problems with headphones.
I've heard a couple of horror stories of people who saw stuff on their parents' iPads and they really didn't want to see.
Photo streaming.
Sharing is caring, children. Sharing is caring.
well, that's going to be like the ultimate IT troll when your organization upgrades to Sierra, and you just walk around and go, "Hey Siri," all the time, just to annoy people. Oh, it's gonna be really fun. I hope Retail Me Not's ready for me to do that because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I think Wozniak would approve of that one.
I was speaking in a conference where where we said, "Hey Siri," and like 3 devices out in the audience piped up.
What can I help you with?
Right.
I think we tried to do that at PSU Mac, but it didn't work out that well.
Yeah.
Because they were admins.
Chances are,
But
yes,
the first time,
not the target
But the
demographic.
first
is
time-
control.
but the first time I was in the shower and I said, "Hey Siri," and I set a reminder for myself, that was pretty cool. And that's the only time I'll ever begin a sentence with that on a podcast.
The other thing we've missed discussing was the other the iPhone demo of the game, which is responsible for the hashtag 400 flying monkeys. Now, who else is completely creeped out by flying monkeys? The concept of there
Wizard of
being
Oz
flying
game?
monkeys on my phone is possibly the one thing that might stop me from buying an iPhone 7 because
This is a new
Yeah,
metric
that-
now. We will now measure
Yeah,
performance by the amount of flying monkeys we can generate.
That
Yeah.
was at the
Our
exact
baseline
same
is 400.
time in the Mac admin Slack and our work Slack. The joke was made that 400 flying monkeys is now the baseline for future like iPhone performance. Like they did it to themselves.
2x, 4x, etc.
yeah,
Yeah.
One thing to think about, and they did spend some time talking about the new A10 Fusion processor. I guess, are they going to give names to them now so that they're, is it like A10 Fusion because A10 Warthog was taken, or what's the story there? But,
Oh wow!
it's going to be a quad-core processor, 2 cores which are each
Low
more
power.
powerful than the last, and 2 cores that are low power, that are designed for efficiency use. So it sounds like we're going to get to spend a lot more time with our phones with the battery, which is awesome because the battery life on my 6S Plus is starting to wane a little bit. And I know my wife goes through hers every day. But it's going to be interesting to see how well that.
All you have to do is buy the battery case.
No battery
That's
case
the
for
Apple
6S
solution.
Plus or the 6 Plus. So you were kind of left with what they hand you at that point. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that goes along. I'm really fascinated to see some of the bench scores on these processors because it looks like they are going to smoke.
So with these new processors, does that mean OS X server or the server 5.2 app will run on them, or
Just as well as on a
Just
Intel.
as well as on a Mac Mini.
because I'm pretty sure they have faster processors than a Mini at that point. So
Uh-huh.
I would not be opposed to having a caching server or whatever, and then
On an
getting a
iPhone 7?
notification. No, getting a notification on my watch that's like, hey. I mean, maybe Auto Packager will have some kind of notification thing for Apple Watch. Who knows? Like, that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. We got to tie it back to our job somehow, right?
That's
I
right.
could
Gimme.
I could easily send you a notification from any script, I guess, but
No thanks. I want it to be automated. I don't want to have to do it myself. Come on. I mean, that's how this works, right? We want the tools to do these things for us. That's why we got into these jobs.
So there was an expansion of one of the APIs. I'm not sure if there was anything else that I missed. The Hey Siri has an API now, so
Yep.
you can. Oh, haha! I
Did
just
you-
set it off.
Yeah.
It keeps
The
on
GP
talking.
I like the fact that the GPS on the watch has a API. I can think of some pretty interesting uses for that.
So,
Hey,
Sorry.
I'll see your Siri and hey Alexa, play. No, never mind.
Hey Alexa, buy cat food. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, you did it, not us.
That worked too well. That worked too well.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
Shush.
Send your bills to Tom at techdelusionary.com. Make
No,
you
don't do
include
that.
the,
Send it to tim.cook@apple.com.
I wonder if Siri will be able to manage your command line. So if you say, "Hey Siri, open terminal and run rm space dash."
No, it won't do it. Tried it. Didn't work.
Of course you did.
Of course, it's the first thing I did. Literally when I installed Sierra. Literally the first thing.
Yep.
But if there's an API, we can do it with iTerm or something like that. It's only a matter of time before.
So, Charles, how about Hey Siri, clear pending MDM commands on all of my managed Mac clients?
I would.
I just set her off again, so she's having a hard time.
I would address that feature request, except for I am bound by non-disclosure not to.
Nice.
Done.
So yeah, so we have Golden Master releases now for iOS and macOS, and watchOS and tvOS, and so those releases hit today. We get final releases now between now and the 20th of September. So we've got approximately 2 weeks to kind of get our crap together.
For OS 10.
For OS 10 and less than that for iOS 10.
Is anybody running the beta on their Apple TV?
I am not.
Of all the things to put a beta on?
I am. It is a giant.
I'll put a beta on the device that the entire family interacts with.
I have one for testing, but yeah.
That's like putting the developer preview of Sierra on your work computer and then having to rebuild it a few days later because it breaks everything.
Who would do that?
Nobody does that.
Foolish.
What do you mean?
I did that. It was great.
Yeah,
Scrabble owner.
I had a fun moment with Nomad and a Cisco VPN client today. And I was like, oh, crap. I'm going to have to go grab their 1011 loaner to do our testing because they're deploying a brand new ICE Network Plus Nomad on Monday. Whee! That's going to be fun.
So who's found things
start-
that are not working so far? Has anybody got any real deal breakers with Sierra or iOS 10 at the moment?
The Cisco AnyConnect client isn't happy, at least the version that
a lot of VPN stuff isn't happy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm stoked.
But people don't use
Standard
VPNs anymore, right? I mean,
Clearly,
you just use
no one
SAML and life is good.
Exactly.
Everything's in the cloud. No big deal.
As long as you've gotten rid of your PPTP VPNs, life is going to be fine if you live in just plain IPsec land.
Courage, people. Courage.
Courage.
Have the courage.
Courage to
Courage.
I mean,
Have
it
the
still
courage.
goes back to
Put it in the cloud.
It still goes back to 1010, where as soon as we had some developers install it because their job is to tell me what doesn't work, we hit Wi-Fi issues, and El Capitan has come out, and now Sierra, and we're doing all right. I think there was some pretty crazy stuff in Yosemite that changed, probably changed, what do I know, some of the way that they develop or the way that they look at changing things in the OS. But Sierra was kind of like El Capitan all over again, relatively safe, and we've still learned our lesson with Yosemite.
There's always something, you know, and that's just life. So,
The only thing I noticed.
Instead of I'll go ahead, Emily. Okay. Instead of introducing bugs, they introduced features like pairing your watch with your Mac, which makes IT people absolutely lose their brains. So
I love pairing with
like,
Active Directory. It makes me super stoked.
I still have my iPhone labeled a Nokia 3360, I think, just to
Is
see
it
if
paired
anybody.
with Active Directory?
No, it's not. Just to see if anybody gets the joke of a Nokia 3360 joining their Wi-Fi network. So far, nobody's laughed at it except for me. But that's because I'm the only one that looks at host names on the Wi-Fi networks.
You should totally hack how it announces its browser version. That would, like, oh my, there's actually.
That's probably not going to work, but 3310 actually is the name. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have enough free time to change it so it registers as like Firefox or anything like that. I'd apologize, but it's Firefox, so I'm not going to apologize to them.
I was going to say the only app that I used when I was on a developer preview that didn't work was like Casper Remote, which I'm apparently the only person that uses anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unfortunately.
I was being
Sorry.
thorough, and I let my jam buddy know. So maybe the 996 update will fix that problem.
But
Doing my due diligence.
But it is totally true. Somebody did mention iOS updates again came up on Jamf Nation, and vendors do lots and lots and lots of really stupid things, but I find it really hard for an iOS-based vendor to have any sort of app that stops working on a newer iOS version. Like, I know vendors have bent over backwards to show us how ridiculously comical they can be in their decisions, but I just feel like iOS is kind of where you draw the line. Like no, I don't want to say nobody, because I'm sure somebody's going to prove me wrong, but like nobody's going to be that ridiculous or crazy to have an iOS app that stops working in a newer iOS version.
Well, I guess that is why Apple is doing the Store cleanup now, because there are a lot of those really old apps that are taking up a significant amount of space.
Right, and that goes back to like your science lab using an app that one of the instructors discovered 15 years ago, and just they keep on using it because it keeps on working, and now they're physically removing it from the App Store. That's a really interesting point. One thing that probably the only thing you do need to test in iOS is the Wi-Fi. I still remember iOS, one of the dot releases of iOS 7 caused Wi-Fi issues with one of the major vendors where you just weren't able to join through the captive portal.
Another thing that's worth looking at as well is caching server. I know in previous years and updates there's been some issues with caching server where if you're not on the latest version of caching server, you sometimes have difficulty getting the new versions cached, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a caching server. So has anyone thrown caution to the wind and upgraded their caching servers to the Sierra and server betas in preparation for launch day?
Ooh, wow, that's actually a really good. That's actually a really good concern if you're looking to offer the performance benefit. You know, the entire reason you install caching server. Mm-hmm. That's actually a really good point, and
it's also the challenge of having.
I feel bad. Thanks, Marcus.
It's also the challenge of having caching server. Yeah, having caching server on the same hardware as other services you may be using a Mac Mini for. I'd have to think of what some of those might be personally, but you know, especially for smaller schools and the like, where you don't have the luxury of having different hardware. But you know, that's something that I'm. You know, I've got it running at home here now, and you know, really just for personal devices. But you know, I'd really want to make sure that you're actually going to be able to help that update come down next week when it hits, rather than discovering everything's trying to pull itself directly from Apple.
I'm going to put a spotlight on Charles. Oh, he already tested it, darn it.
Yeah, the script I wrote, I tested on server 5.2, and it seems to work. There's one new option in 5.2 for, I can't remember what it was. I could go grab my other laptop, but there's only one new option in the entire server other than Profile Manager, and it's with caching server, of course. And it's just like a checkbox or something like that. So, but that doesn't impact the script. So.
Hey, we should call out that for those admins that are relying on using Crate OS X installer package, COSIP as I call it, has been I think now pretty much fixed to do 10.11 to 10.12 upgrades, right? Is that pretty much in the books for those who use it to upgrade? That has been updated too, so. You can rely on that day one.
I love all this day one readiness that we're starting to see from both community tools and from commercial tools, and it's really kind of a joy to see everybody just be like, all right, let's do this. And because there are not a lot of ways that you can block a user with admin access from upgrading. And so that's traditionally one of the things where maybe you can block the application itself and hope they don't remove the profile if they're able to. Obviously, if you're using DEP and an MVM, that's a little harder. Or something.
I'd be interested to hear how we all do new operating system readiness? Like, do you ask for volunteers and kind of give it a week or two with some key people at your organization and then open it up to everybody? Or is it like Wild Wild West? Or do you say no until like 6 months later when there are like 2 new dot releases? Like, just interested to hear different perspectives on that.
Sure, I'll go first on that. So with most of our clients, we generally recommend waiting until .1 at least. That may just be the paranoid consultant in me that would rather not deal with the .0 releases. But we'll support it day one, and if somebody upgrades, we'll just cope. Obviously, if we hit a showstopper, they've got to roll back, and we usually send out like an all call to everybody that basically says, "Hey, by the way, Sierra's here." And there's some stuff that it does, and we've been testing it. I mean, obviously, we go through the testing cycle. My daily driver's been on the developer preview since I think beta 4, beta 3, beta 4, someplace in there, beta 1 for the iOS release, because I'm a lunatic and a masochist. And our focus is, are there huge benefits? Then move everybody forward and start to make it available in self-service environments. So throw it in Managed Software Center with a package in Cosix and go to town and say, hey, this is available if you want to do it. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you want to try something, we usually, for our bigger clients, we'll have a loaner set up with it so that people can kind of come over and test things out. Be like, hey, how does Office work in this section? How does Mail work? Are there any big differences that we should know about? We try to do like a lunch and learn here and there as we go through it, and then make it available, and then hopefully we have everybody moved over by the .2 or .3 release. Obviously, there are always going to be outliers, and we're still finding 10.9 machines, 10.8 machines out there in the wild that they just haven't wanted to upgrade. So we do our best, but that's kind of our focus.
Yeah, so I think I think in terms of testing, I'm one of those people who wants it on my computer pretty early out there. I think it's not to step on anything that Tom mentioned, because I think most of the time it is safe to just let them work a few things out over the first few weeks. But I would definitely try and test as early as you can, and just look at what your imaging workflow or your deployment workflow is with the 5 apps or 2 or 3 different services that your computers require, and just test those one by one. The big thing being the Wi-Fi and then the VPN, right? And then you'll know the weirdo apps in your organization that you need to test ahead of time, or some very specific printing device, something like that. And it also goes back to having the right management in place so that you can restrict updates appropriately, because you can tell people you won't be able to go on the Wi-Fi if you update to this OS because there's some bugs, or however you want to call it. Sometimes it's the manager's fault, sometimes it's Apple's fault. But nobody enjoys being told, I told you so, because that doesn't actually get anybody anywhere. You want to have a process in place that keeps things safe and running. With the exception of completely removing your computer from the MDM, that's a very out there, well, deal with it. Your computer doesn't work, but you also removed yourself from the management system that was going to alert you that your computer was going to stop connecting to the VPN if you upgraded.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always a risk. What we did at my old job and what I'm trying at my new job now is putting a restricted software thing in place for the installer. I mean, people can get around it if they want, but for people who are just like, oh, new update, download, click to run, there's a notice that comes up that says, hey, we're testing this out before we open it up to everybody. If you want to volunteer, email the help desk, that kind of thing. Get key users from different teams across the company to opt in so that we can have them run it for a week or 2 and make sure that core business apps work. Because as an admin, you could probably help yourself troubleshoot things, but I think having actual people that work at your organization stress testing is helpful because they're going to use a computer differently than you will,
Yeah, and it especially when there's such a large variety of computers out there and a large variety of different applications that people are using. It's really helpful. I have somebody who actually runs beta every single day on their production system, period. So I'll be installing a Sierra and they'll be installing a Sierra 12.1. That's how ahead of the beta they are. And they just, part of it is the interest as a Mac fan. Part of it is the need to spot issues ahead of time. The other part is just their willingness to say like, hey, I can toss this computer out the window and it doesn't matter because everything I need is like on the cloud or whatever. I think it's really good to identify people like that ahead of time and find ways to prevent the person that's going to click a banner. And when it really comes down to it, they were shown a banner. So that's like your fault for letting that banner pop up. It's all your fault. Everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm keeping stuff from people that I'm supporting. Like, I'm fine with them seeing the splash, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like an opinion thing.
And Emily, I think your perspective is Apple's perspective as well. You know.
Probably.
I think you're the person on the side of the road that's like, hey, the bridge is out ahead. You might want to stop here for a second. And, you know, you want to let them know ahead of time so that they don't drive off a cliff.
I'm the person on Waze reporting the traffic so that the other drivers know.
Why didn't you check Waze?
Yeah.
You were late today?
Anyway.
Those are the people using Apple Maps.
Hey, don't be dissing Apple Maps. There's some good stuff in the new iOS 10.
So before we get too far ahead on the well, I think we only touched the surface on the iPhone, but we got to talk about those headphones. And I'm not making fun when I do my little ear pod. Like I was saying earlier, I'm the only one that can fit these in my head. And I actually feel bad because I had these headphones that I actually wanted to like a lot. They were like a great deal on Amazon. I was really excited about getting them in, but they were those Bluetooth earphones that you always see that have the soft tip on them and they're noise canceling. But that's the only thing that people make nowadays is these soft tip ones. So you have to shove them in your ear, and it needs full contact with your entire ear, and it also blocks out all other sound. So much so that I was on a phone call with somebody and they had to tell me that my tea kettle was whistling because I couldn't hear it on my headphones. So I'm really, really, I don't know, maybe it's just this like thing that I've been stuck on for months if you've been watching me on Slack, but I'm really excited to see the AirPods do what they do, but still have that like casual on-off style. And again, we'll have to see like how well does it actually stay in and things like that. But
yeah, the first fit and finish reports are up now, and Christina Warren from Gizmodo has a piece up. It is titled hilariously, "I stuck Apple's AirPods in my ears and it shockingly wasn't terrible." I don't know how to feel about that, but I feel like Apple's getting a lot of extra guff today over this particular decision, and I think that's BS. I mean, if you look at everything that they're up to, you know, my friend Rob, who writes for Yahoo Finance, talked about this as rent-seeking behavior. And I would normally be agreeing with him, except for the fact that they include the adapter in the box, and the additional adapters are $9 frickin'. And if you spent $umpty million for a pair of earphones that sound like Marilyn Monroe whispering in your ear, sweet nothings all the day, you can afford an extra.
I think you have too much free time.
Eventually, that gets really boring.
Eventually, you know, I'm not sure it does, but I want to find out. So,
I was thinking about it today, and I would really like it if my MacBook, if they could bring back the SCSI port on my MacBook.
Yeah.
You know, you remember the little square SCSI adapter that they?
Oh yeah.
The 540 or the.
Plug in. What are you talking about? I can't plug that into my Mac.
Right, and it would also be great if we could bring back FireWire 400 and 800 connectors.
So how about the 3.5 millimeter adapter? I should Google this ahead of time, but I'm not, so I'm sorry. Was that mono or was that phono? Is that what they said? That it was a phono adapter? I almost thought they said mono adapter, which would be them like really sticking it to you.
Yeah.
Like, you can use your headphones, but you're going to be listening to them in mono.
I hope
What
the
does
mic
this
works.
mono use speak?
Useful if you have the Beatles full collection in mono and want to hear it in mono and not hear mono converted to stereo when you're listening to it on your digital device.
The way it's supposed to be listened to. Yeah.
So I know some third-party devices that use the jack will work with the new adapter.
Yes.
I'm curious
that's gonna be
which
interesting.
ones, because I've used, like, I have a thermometer that uses that jack, and I tried it with another adapter for something else and it didn't work. So I'm curious which of the devices work and what's that trigger point that makes them work.
Hopefully those Square like credit card readers and PayPal
Square-
readers work, because that's going to impact a lot of businesses if they can't swipe credit cards.
Square's
anymore.
already announced, I think, that they do work with the adapter.
Yes.
So
That's
And
nice.
you know, the other thing about Square is that they've been heavily pushing their new Bluetooth reader anyway to deal
Yes.
with Apple Pay and to deal with chip cards. So
EMV.
yeah, exactly. So I was going to say you know, we usually wrap up, and we've been going about an hour and 10 now, so I'd kind of like to wind it down and give people their evenings back.
Thanks,
Uh,
Dad.
You're welcome. It's always good to see you, son.
You guys have been playing D&D for 10 hours.
So Stranger Things references are my favorite, so you can stay. So yeah, I was going to say, I figure it would be useful for us all to talk about, you know, the favorite thing that we saw today. So Adam, do you want to go first? What was the favorite thing you saw today in out of the keynote?
Yeah, I have to admit, so I guess my situation's a little different. My short answer it's the iPhone, and my long answer is that this is one of the few times that I've been in the position where I'm waiting to figure out what I'm going to buy. I'm borrowing a 6S from somebody, and I'm like, do I buy the 6S? Do I buy the 7? And like, I'm really excited about what the 7 is doing. I really like their pricing and the storage they've done on the new model. The photography, for such a long time, the photography on the iPhone was like gimmicky, and it's like, oh, it's a stupid teenager taking selfies. But now it's like the past couple of revisions with their hardware and the software, it's really doing, I think they're doing amazing stuff. And I'm just really excited because I loved having the camera on the 5S. I love having the camera on the 6S, having like a real camera on me now. And yeah, now I feel like I get to do that now with the 7 as well, and have a really amazing device with me so that I can do my travel photography and everything. And now it's just like, do I do the larger screen so that I can have the dual lens? I think that was really smart on their part for some variety of reasons that the photo people will kind of get, like depth of field and the actual focal
Depth of
way
field,
of-
yeah. It's like faux bokeh. It's like background blurring, right?
Well, there's that, but there's also the actual like focal point difference between taking a picture with a particular lens. It kind of like sandwiches everything. Anti-wide angle fisheye.
Yeah.
And that's what you get with
Telephoto.
the telephoto lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just really, really exciting to see.
Yep. Charles, how
So-
about you?
iPhone 7. Oh, no, actually, I'm going to wait for the iPhone 7S, right? And then I'm going to wonder if I'm not going to buy the iPhone 7S, and I'm going to wait for the iPhone 8.
That hurts. That hurts when you
I
mess up.
haven't been on the podcast since episode 1, so I've just been.
You've got to get your opinions in.
Yeah, you got to get it in. It's important. Charles, how about you?
Well, when I got home from work today, I noticed that UPS had delivered my new copy of the Unearthed Arcana from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, circa 1979, I think. So I was pretty stoked about that. But if you're asking specifically about the event with Apple today, I would
That answer was worse than mine, which is really saying something.
I would have to say that it was either Sweet Home Alabama, which I'm very disappointed that I can't download that on iTunes,
We'll get you
or
there.
yeah, or it would be the fact that they actually have the Series 1 with the new processor. Not that I'm going to buy a Series 1 because I happen to already own a watch like most people who are worth knowing. No offense to.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, point taken. Point taken.
But I thought that was whether it has to do with supply chain management for Apple and it's cheaper to run, I just thought it was it was a cool thing. So that would be my thing.
Awesome. Emily?
Oh, me next. I think probably being able to play Mario on my phone, tied with Flappy Mario, as I've been calling it. When I heard rumors about the dual lens, potentially on iPhone 7, I was very excited because when we go on trips or go out or take pictures of food or whatever we do, right, I always use my phone because I don't want to carry a point-and-click camera with me. So having that nice lens in my pocket is very exciting. Like, legitimately, I'm definitely getting the plus to get the telephoto lens for the kind of depth of field that it produces. Like, it's very exciting to me as like a consumer level photographer. I'm no professional, but being able to get that much closer to having really nice photos for my photo book and stuff is very exciting.
Awesome. And Marcus?
The initial one was being excited that the new Apple Watch is not that much better than the one that I've got, so I'm not going to feel the need to try and get rid of this. But the industrial designer in me got really excited about the travel case for the AirPods. I hate my earpod cables getting wrapped up and knotted in my bag, and the idea of just being able to chuck them in a little case and have them charge. I actually thought that was really, really interesting. It's probably a fairly small part of the launch, but that for me is the thing that is going to make me want to buy them. So, here's for the small things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Pepine?
Well, I was excited about the non-appearance of a 45-minute playlist jam session with Eddie Q. That was a nice breath of fresh air because we've had enough of the Q-Man for a while.
Wow! Shots across the bow.
Air Force One.
I was
okay.
kind of disappointed we didn't see Bosma St. John myself.
It wasn't
Right.
it wasn't like a frat party on stage this time. Yeah.
I want to see carpool karaoke with Bosma St. John. I reckon
Yes.
I'd pay money to watch that. That would be awesome.
But
Maybe
yeah,
she'll be on those episodes they're going to put on whatever
I hope so. I
thing
hope so.
later.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apps or something. Anyway, the iPhone was, sort of the star of this, and I like what I saw.
Fantastic. And for
Tom?
me, I think my favorite thing that I saw today was, it's a little thing. I used to be a swimmer once upon a time, and I loved that the watch, they were like, yeah, we totally sealed it up, except for that problem with the speaker, because we couldn't, your speaker needs air to be. And so I love the idea of spinning the dial on the watch, and it, modulates the speaker so that it pushes all the water out of the thing. And I was like, holy crap, that's genius. That is seriously freaking smart. And it just, it's a little thing. I don't swim anymore. I got bad shoulders. I'm old. I'm fat. And that's not my jam anymore. But if it was 20 years ago and I was a freshman in college again, that would be freaking amazing.
Sneezing watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to get points to the watch on that. So
Apple Watch attacks.
Yeah.
They're going to be a thing in the future.
Exactly. And so that's my favorite thing. And so we're going to wrap up this evening. So thank you, Adam, so much for joining us. Where can people find you on the internet?
AdamCodiga.com, or they can find me on Slack and Twitter and LinkedIn. And
Adam, I found your screwdrivers, Adam. So just in case you're looking,
screwdriver like 6 months ago.
Brilliant Slack joke. Yes.
So much so I have like 3 sets now.
Charles,
But
where
I
can
like that the set that you held up was the set that is the actual emoji on Slack.
Nice.
You weren't helping me the other day when I was trying to find the mozzarella sticks. So,
go ahead, Adam.
Get
it all out.
Speaking of the speaker, in the
You got
Apple
a lot
Watch,
to
I
say
think,
today.
as Tim Cook said, we have to do a little applause for all the Apple people, all the engineers, all the people that solve these really crazy, insane design choices that we throw in front of them. Like, hey, I want to have like telephoto zoom on my camera. No, it has to be like telephoto optical zoom. But if you make it like through 3 millimeters thicker, I'm just going to call it crap, and I'm going to go out and buy an Android. So, what are you going to do? And the same thing with all their software when it comes to like security and safety. It's just like that Stephen Colbert Apple ad where it's like the developers are like one step ahead of nation states and everything. So I don't know. I just feel like we have to give them a little round of applause, a little toast.
Indeed. Great job, Apple. Charles, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Cryptid.com. You can come over to the Jamf home office in Minneapolis and hang out, whatever.
Cool. I'll take you up on that. Emily?
Okay.
I am on Twitter at Emily with 3 O's after it, Emily out of office, and at Emily in the Mac admin Slack, and modtitan.com and LinkedIn. And if you search my name, you'll find me all over the internet. I don't hide. You can also find me in Sweden in October, as well as who else here is attending? Charles, you're going to be there, right? Yeah, Charles and I will be in Sweden at the Mac Sysadmin Conference. That'll be super fun. You can say hi
Where I
there.
got to meet Pepijn for the first time in human person, if I believe. If I
On another continent. Funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Marcus, how about you?
Marcus Ransom on Twitter, Slack, all of the things. Mac Admin Slack, especially in the ANZ Mac channel. That's about it at the moment for me. I'm looking like heading over to if you want to hire a Mac admin in Australia, or more importantly, if you want a consultant for a while, because that at the moment that looks like what I'm going to be doing. Get in touch. We'll work for food maybe, or cat food.
His cats need to eat. Feed his cats.
Yeah, cats need to eat. And there's a stormtrooper behind me that I need to get out of the way of.
And Pepijn, where can we find you?
I'm on the Slack, Brienne, Twitter as well, and I just saw I'm very close to 1,000 followers, and I believe I'm going to get a puppy if I get 1,000 followers. So help me out, get me a puppy.
Get that man a puppy.
Thank you.
Everyone follow Pepijn. Oh my God, if there's ever a reason.
Yeah, no joke. And if you're looking for me on the internet, you can find me at tbridge pretty much everywhere. You can also find my long-form stuff at cannonball.tombridge.com or my newsletter at tinybits.com/technobits or tinyletter.com/technobits. There we go. I can even get my own URL right. So some coming attractions for the MacAdmin podcast. We're going to be talking with Richard Purvis about CryptoCard and other second factor authentications. That's scheduled to record sometime in the next 7 days. We'll probably have it out in the next 10 to 15. And then, if you're interested in being on the show, if you want to come talk to us, please come find us in the Mac ADM podcast channel on the MacAdmin Slack, where you can join 6,000 and other fellow MacAdmins every single day.
It's a lot of people.
And it's a lot of people. There's a lot of great stuff that's going on there and really, really helpful stuff. I've been working with Joel Rennick on a couple of Nomad issues, and he's been super awesome. If you have not yet, please go find the episode 10 with Joel. It is my favorite yet. And of course, obviously not as favorite as this one, because we're doing that one right now. Again, the MacAdmins podcast is a collaborative podcast between the MacAdmins.org organization and the lovely folks that you see on your screen right now or here in the audio podcast. And
I promise I'm not in every episode.
Oh, we need you in more episodes, Adam. I'm dead serious about that. And
I have opinions, and I need an outlet. And I yeah, only I had a live journal, I'd be all set.
Yeah, so we're hoping to have Graham Gilbert on, but once he gets to be stateside sometime this fall. I know that we want to try and catch up with another couple folks. If you want to hear from somebody in specific, drop us a note. Let us know what's up. You can reach us at podcast@macadmins.org. Obviously, if you want to sponsor the MacAdmins podcast, that's an option that's available to you. And we will take your cold, hard cash. I mean, no, actually, we will take your cold, hard cash. As
Show
well as,
me the money.
Or PayPal.
Transfers,
Or PayPal.
Bitcoin?
Swiss bank accounts, Bitcoin. No Dogecoin.
Beers.
Just Bitcoin. Beers. I will accept beers.
Wine.
Pokemon
Diet Coke.
I'm not picky.
Yeah, Diet Coke is a good one. Caffeine.
Pokemon
very
coins.
That's
Pokemon
right,
coins.
Pokemon coins. Yeah, very good. We accept all of these currencies, so drop us some
Pens,
And,
USB drives, iPhone adapters because that new bloody phone is coming out.
the next
Screwdrivers for
generation
Adam.
Yeah. The
And
next
earbuds.
generation MacBook. I will take one of those. And we've gotten really punchy. So
Rate us as well,
everybody-
iTunes and
Oh,
Stitcher and any other app. you
Oh
use.
yes, leave us a rating on iTunes and Stitcher and tell us how we did. Obviously, you want to give that, give us the maximum number of stars that you could possibly give us.
Possibly
Those would be-
5.
I mean, 5 would be nice. 8 if it's available. I'm not gonna
Regardless
judge.
of how you actually feel, we want all your stars.
That's right.
Give
That's
them
right.
to us.
Yeah, and obviously, if that's what helped iTunes, prime the pump so that other Mac admins can find this lovely podcast. So thanks everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you out on the interwebs. Good night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.
Oh, goodbye, Adam.
Bye.